There's a lady who knows all about hyoid bones, and she's hanging Epstein. He's in heaven. She lives in the Poconos. Her husband got famous dome, and she's hiding the body of Epstein. Like that one?
That's
Lives
pretty
in the
good.
Poconos? Yeah. I mean, I've been working on that for about 3 weeks now. I've finally.
You can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been workshopping it. I've been playing around with fairies and elves, etc. And I think I've got it. This will crack the case. This is meme magic.
Oh, meme team.
Oh God, that's the most.
MIT,
what is the word people
baby.
use now? Simp. It's the most
Yes.
simp shit in the world.
I said this on Twitter, but it's true. Meme team has mad Fact Squad vibes.
I cannot believe that Hillary Clinton hired a guy from the Jeffrey Epstein College, MIT Media Lab, to fucking do her meme team.
That's not what we're talking about.
No, we're not talking about that. I just can't believe it.
I just like that you just called Elizabeth Warren Hillary Clinton.
Oh, I did? Sorry. Check this out. I'll make it woke. All white women look the same to me. Sorry. Yeah, I can't tell the difference between natural racists. Yeah, it's
Elizabeth Warren isn't white.
listen, I don't want to get into this, but
Brace is tired.
Imagine if Bernie Sanders was like, I'm Chinese. I might have
We've
mentioned
done-
this before.
yeah.
I think about this all the time. Bernie Sanders put out a cookbook that's like, General Cho's with Uncle Bernie, and just like was like, yeah, my great uncle is from fucking Xinjiang. I'm a Uyghur.
Jesus Christ, we should cut that.
Yeah, it makes me sick. I just hate when white women lie.
Here's what you know. Jeffrey Epstein. 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 Come here. Jeffrey Epstein.
Speaking of, well, are we doing this? Should we get into it?
Let's rock. Who are you?
I'm Liz. Hello.
I refuse to say who I am.
Say your name, Bryce. Oh wait.
No. I'm going incognito for the incognito mode for this.
Yeah. Welcome to TrueAnon, you guys.
And we are joined by producer Young Chomsky, and we have in us in the room the ghost of Ghislane. This turns out Ghislane hangs out with rich people.
Yes, that was in the news this week.
She was found to have been a guest at a Bezos retreat to, what was it called? Campfire?
Campfire. Jeffrey Bezos.
Jeffrey Bezos. By the way, 100% implicated in this in every single way, which we can't prove it, so I can't say 100%. I can say 100%, but I have to say allegedly. Bezos fingerprints all over this stuff.
Over what?
Pedophilia, etc.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Emphasis on
Allegedly.
the et cetera, alleged.
Yeah, absolutely allegedly, sir. I don't mean any disrespect.
So there was an article in Vice, which, newsflash, still around.
Yeah, sucks ass.
Didn't know that
Yeah,
that was...
shout out Alice Koterji.
Didn't know that. I thought that they were like kaput.
No, I wish. I mean, someone needs to eventually go in there and do it.
Anyway, so they reported that a couple attendees, unnamed, would not go on the record, attendees of the annual Campfire Summit, that Miss Ghislane Maxwell had attended.
So what is Campfire?
So Campfire is a flashy celeb retreat paid for by Mr. Bezos.
That's all expenses paid.
Yeah, it's an inclusive. It's like Sandals Jamaica.
My God. What's that like? Isn't there a horny sandals? What's it called? It's called like Catalyst or something. No, that's the Jacobin magazine.
it?
No, it's called. There's one called like
Commune.
Crucible or something. Like where you go. I've seen a.
We
I've
should
seen
start
an
like a
ad
horny
for it.
Marxist one called Commune.
Oh my God! I went to that last year. It was the DSA convention.
Disgusting.
Nut everywhere,
drum
all over the floors. It's
like a secretive retreat that it's one of the. There's a couple that Amazon puts on. Campfire, from what's been reported, which is very few and far between, is that it is more geared toward artists, writers, what we call the creative class. So it seems to be more affiliated with Amazon Productions as opposed to the other kind of nefarious or equally nefarious Bezosian projects.
Bezosian, I like that. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the past attendees in 2011 saying Jeff Tweedy of Wilco. These are the people that run the world. Jeff Tweedy of fucking Wilco. The director Jason Reitman, who's doing the new Ghostbusters, which is a deep state film. And Werner Herzog, who I'm sure...
Protect Herzog.
Yeah, who knows?
They probably kidnapped, brought him there.
Shit, I don't know.
Maybe he's doing a documentary on it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And George R.R. Martin, which is the Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah, I mean...
He's the producer of the Beatles.
Yeah, it appears that guy who is... I mean, you and I both know that is pederast written all over it. I don't know what they're doing here at Campfire because it looks like they don't really talk about it, right?
Yeah, it says here, some writers, when contacted about their past attendance and asked whether we're going this year, reacted with something akin to terror.
To terror?
One writer begged not to be mentioned in any way, insisting that it was a private, off-the-record event and should remain so, lest Mr. Bezos be offended.
I mean, Bezos knows that they're talking to whoever this journalist is, too.
Yeah, by the way, that quote is from the New York Times, the failing New York Times, the one and only. So, just in case you thought that I was being, I was exaggerating.
Yeah.
I mean, they did use terror.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong word for the New York Times.
Yeah, so I think I don't really know what to make of Ghislane being a guest other than she was just always a kind of like socialite, wannabe socialite.
Yeah.
Gadfly.
It's not
sorts.
to me, it's not like just like Bezos plucked, he put this obscure woman into the company of these rich people. Like I'm sure knew many of the other guests. Like she is a woman about town, more so than Bezos.
In some ways,
In parts of in
that society
yeah.
way, yeah. And I think with the Terramar project, she was definitely kind of up to her own philanthropic kind of,
philanthropy is
whatever
disgust me.
Yeah, I mean, it should be said. I do want to say that, Bezos. It's unfortunate that we haven't, like you said, he hasn't kind of like come up in a lot of these discussions. Mm-hmm. He is the richest man in the world, right?
Yeah.
We mentioned on the Patreon episode, and I believe we've mentioned it before, just kind of in passing, the Bilderberg Group, which is a sort of exclusive tier, if you can believe it, within Davos, which is the sort of annual gathering of elite pedophiles, allegedly.
Yes.
No, but bankers, prime ministers, kings, queens, princes,
intelligence people,
intelligence, pick your poison.
All our friends.
Yeah. So Bezos has been a listed attendee of the Bilderberg Group at Davos at least twice.
Oh my God.
So he's very much up in this, in this world, which I don't think should be a surprise to anyone sort of paying attention.
No, not at all. I mean, this is forget about the Chinese century. We're about to head into the Amazon century. I do want to put a point in this real quick. If I could read something that is really close, that it means a lot to me and it brings a lot of emotions up out of me. You know what? I just want to get a little drunk with you tonight. Not falling down, just a little drunk. I want to talk with you and plan with you. Listen and laugh.
What?
I basically want to be with you. Then I want to fall asleep with you and wake up tomorrow and read the paper with you and have coffee with you.
I forgot about this.
You make me better. You're meant for me, and I know it's more clearly than I've ever known anything. I love everything about you. I love that your last pick takes me completely out of my head. I'm crazy about you. All of you. I need to smell and touch you. I want to hold you. I know you're right for me. I know we fit. I like it when you're strong, and I like it when you're vulnerable. Everything. The only thing I don't like is not being with you. All of this is just straight from my heart. I love, everything about you. You can't fight chemistry. So that was Jeff Bezos in exclusive communication to the woman that he was.
Isn't there? What was the e-girl thing? Didn't he say something like
e-girl?
A live girl.
Oh yeah, I think he said "I love you, alive girl." No, that's the opposite of an e-girl.
Whatever.
That would be so great if Bezos got caught Instagram messaging with some 22-year-old girl with platinum hair and a bunch of spider gifts in all her Instagram stories.
I cannot believe that didn't sink him.
You can't believe that didn't sink him?
I mean, just in terms of people still, people still kind of revere him.
Yeah, because they've never had sex with even their wife. He's had sex with not only his wife, but his second wife.
What was crazy about that? I mean, this has nothing to do with anything, but I just want to mention when that whole divorce thing was happening, it was like what I would imagine a divorce happening during the Habsburg Empire.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was just immediately, but it was just immediately there was a brand new
Queen
billionaire.
Bezos.
Queen billionaire.
Oh,
just created out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just
she
because
became
the kingdom
titled.
was split.
It's insane. I mean, to our listeners, think about all the heartfelt things and the way you talk to maybe a loved one or a girl you're interested in or a fella you've been seeing. Just say all this Bezos shit to them. They'll love it. I mean, think about this. Bezos is out there getting poontang while you're sitting in your fucking car on your way to work listening to this podcast.
What you should do, actually, is not read that, but have your Alexa read it to them.
Yes. Actually, if you make your Alexa read those texts, it'll just start recording everything you say.
It's already doing that, so don't worry.
Yep. But yeah, that's how the fucking Bilderberg freaks talk to each other. So
yeah. This is what, this soulless men who believe they're gods. You know what I mean?
I love you, alive girl.
The new economy. Is it a boom without end?
Profits flying high.
It's not clear whether it's sustainable.
Sorry, that was a weird tangent. I fucking hate Bezos. One thing to mention about Ghislane, and this brings us to a hot little tip that we received.
Love getting these.
Is that Ghislane was at this campfire event, was accompanied by Scott Borgerson. Borgenson. What?
My hubby?
Yes.
Oh. That rock soars.
Now, can you remind our listeners who he is?
Scott Borgerson is the CEO of Cargo Metrics.
Which no one has ever heard of.
Yeah, well, I use it all the time. I'm always doing cargo metrics.
You're always metricing your cargo.
I'm always be like, where the fuck my cargo at?
Let me check my metrics.
Scotty. Cargo Metrics is a company that, as far as I know, it uses satellite imaging to track where cargo is moving and predict trade and stuff like that.
From what I gather, it was they had originally set up a kind of financial aspect or like a fintech aspect that wanted to kind of use that that satellite information to then predict like trade flows and like stock pricing.
To me, I like
so it would have just like more knowledge in order to predict, how certain assets were gonna move in the market.
Yeah, I
but
gotcha.
didn't work out, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, he does own a mansion in Manchester by the Sea, so it's
Yes.
working out better
Well,
than
that's
anything
what I
we're
want to
doing.
say. People will not remember him from Cargometrics, but they will remember him.
From Ghislane's hiding place. Remember when, right before that photo, that fire-ass bomb photo of her dropped, looking like, at the In-N-Out in L.A.? Mm-hmm. Well, of course, right before that, it was reported that she was holed up in Grey Garden style in Manchester by the Sea at Scott Borgerson's manse.
Yes.
Her sister,
Manse by the Sea.
Manse by the Sea. Her sister, I believe it was Isabel, but it could have been Christine. Was seen packing a car full of luggage around there, yada yada. But yeah, Scott Borgerson, her dumpy, but also somehow looks athletic. Hubby was, and much younger.
Not
hubby
husband.
Hubby is kind of a loose term.
Well, I mean, yeah, they weren't married.
They are not married. They are living in. They will go to hell for this if they die without repenting. I see Liz is. I almost called you Niz. Liz is nodding really heavily. Yeah. So I'm sure. I mean, Maxwell had her Terramar bullshit. He had his, spying on cargo company, and so of course, but these two denizens of the sea.
I wonder if they bonded over their love of the ocean.
They, I'm sure, frolicked amongst pods of dolphins and swam among the whales.
It's funny that we bring up, or it's kismet, as we say.
Okay.
That this story dropped about Ghislane and Scott at Campfire because we received a hot little tip from a listener.
This is a spicy little number.
Which, now I should say that our listener, who shall remain anonymous, said that we could read the whole thing on the podcast.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is taken from our conversation with him.
Yes.
Or her. But I'm doing a really bad job of this.
What were you trying to hide right there?
I don't know.
Were you trying to obfuscate whether it was me or you who talked to them? I literally don't know if it's him or her. I don't remember. I didn't have this conversation. You did. You think the government's going to be confused because they're trying to figure out which one of did Brace or Liz talk to them? Oh, we'll listen to their podcast and find out how they intro it.
Brace, be nice.
It was me who spoke to this person.
Anyway, I am going
cultivated
to
this
skip
source.
over some things and redact some things out of kindness.
A loving redaction.
Yes. And this is quite long, so we'll probably pause to talk about some things. But there's quite some juicy little details in here. So, this is a quote from a non-listener.
Who should we call this person? The Colonel.
No, you always try to say the Colonel.
I know. I always want a source called The Colonel. I think that makes it sound more professional.
Let's call this person
Let's see.
Phil Donahue.
Phil Donahue. All right, this is a tip from listener Phil Donahue.
So Scott didn't seek out Ghislane, as far as I know. He's a person who is very seduced by status and pedigree.
Nothing wrong with that.
Used to work at and Scott used to come in. Said he came in one day gushing over his new girlfriend, Ghislane.
Oh, boy, God.
And he was all, she went to Oxford. She moves in some high circles. He was literally getting her Oxford diploma framed.
She looks like a chimp with late-stage syphilis. She's falling, she's melting.
But it was such a performance. Googled her, and that's when we found out who she was. This was about 4 years ago. Okay, so they'd been dating for a long time.
Yeah, 4 years is a while, huh?
Yeah, so...
And that, let's see, what year is it? It's 2015, so yeah, I mean, by that point, Epstein was kind of in some hot water.
I'd say so.
Long past that point. But, wow, I wonder if Scott ever met old Jeffy.
Well, let's see. Yeah, that mansion in Marblehead is in his name, but I'm pretty certain she bought it. They
That
were
sounds
settling down.
Man, that does,
That's kind of...
yeah.
That's kind of a bummer. I mean, I'm a romantic.
So you think that like, oh, she left all that behind? She left like the millions of dildos and child rapes behind her. Just hey, it's the truth. You gotta
Scott's
face
never mentioned Epstein in any case. My guess is he believes Ghislane is innocent and didn't ever think twice about it. After the tabloids published photos of Scott and his dog, he lost business.
it. I'm gonna use another cargo spying company because this one is led by a guy who's dating a notorious child rapist.
Well, it is kind of interesting. I mean, I think our friend mentioned that it was quite significant business that actually they lost. And I think he may have, I mean, my intuition here is that the board of directors was quite concerned.
Yes.
About the relationship when it came out in the tabloids.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's not a great thing. I mean, as someone who has served on several boards, any of my guys ever came out with a story that they're dating one of the most notorious white slavers in late 20th century history, I would be a little concerned.
Yeah. Used to dog sit for them. So used to swing by and pick up the dog from their place in Marblehead. Hasn't been asked to do that since maybe June or July.
So that's what she's been hiding out there the whole time then.
Well, yeah, it goes on. This person thinks Ghislane is still there, with his logic being all her stuff is there, she lived there. So this is where she lived.
Yeah, this
which
was her
is not
residence.
what I understood to be the case up until now.
What did you think was the case?
That it was like her boyfriend's place.
Yeah, okay,
Like, I
yeah.
mean, it seems like the relationship in the press was really downplayed.
I always thought that she was kind of, you certainly was, and you did not hear much of it. That In-N-Out burger story obliterated this story.
Yeah, totally.
And I had always,
interesting.
I had been, and I sort of sourced this from rumors that appeared in the New York Post and elsewhere, under the impression that she was living in the UK and she was hiding out there.
So we continue. I know she has a place in London as well.
Oh, there we go.
Because Scott invited me to have dinner with them a couple years ago. We declined because it was too icky. Interesting.
What? I'm sorry, I'm drinking some orange soda here, listeners, and I almost choked on it there. That is icky.
I mean, I probably would have gone.
I absolutely would have gone. But I mean,
no judgment. And it's great to have like moral standards.
Oh, yeah, no
whatever.
judgment to this person. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's probably the morally sound position to not spend social time with the. Wait a minute. Are we just like rich people then?
No.
Because now we're like, we just hang out with Ghislane Maxwell. It's true. If we were invited to dinner with Ghislane, I would go.
Yeah, but you also say to
catch a pedophile, you must become a pedophile.
Right,
Correct.
which I don't like.
I would
but
spring it on her. I would just start asking her.
I will say you do have a point in this instance.
Yes.
Okay, continue. So I had asked how the story even got to the tabloids, because that was always very confusing to me.
Like how they track her there?
Yeah, it's like, what, you're just like, photographers are all around, and then you see a dog and you put some,
Yeah, I mean,
A&B
they've
to
been
it.
on
It
the
didn't make
hunt
any
for a little
sense.
while, but how did they get on the hunt?
Well, I asked our source, Phil Donahue, who said, "Oh, that's a great part. His fucking neighbor was mad about the fence he was putting up and called the papers."
Oh my God, this is like, didn't this happen to like Scott Walker and Paul Ryan or someone of those fucking
Rand Paul. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, with the
It's
you know
another
what?
Paulian
All
incident.
politics are local.
Yeah.
Remember that.
You know what? Here's a little thing. Here's a little gem I came up with last week too. The personal is the political.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes it comes to bite you in the ass.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Sticking your nose where it doesn't belong.
or just keep your side of the street clean, people. That's what I do. Okay. Now on to the really interesting stuff. Scott has maintained that all the authorities know where she is, and it's just journalists who are not being told. I think his words were, quote, "She's in contact with all the people she's supposed to be in contact with."
So that would be William Barr.
Well, it would just be any I mean, it's not surprising to me.
That she hasn't been picked up.
Yeah.
How come?
I mean, if she's in contact with police investigators.
Yeah.
And they know where she is. Mm-hmm. Then, and there's no, I mean, it seems like they're kind of trying to like keep the whole thing wrapped up tight. I
could see that. I mean, it's just a little confusing to me. I could see someone, pretty much everybody in this story kind of turning on Epstein too, but now that he's dead, it would be much harder for her to get a deal. So it's a little confusing to me why she hasn't been picked up. Could be several reasons. They're trying to build a better case against her, which, a little iffy on that. Or they're just sort of trying to let her go free, you know? I mean, there's been so many false, or not false, but like, there's been so many sightings of her or rumors of where she is that have turned up nothing, that like, it does make you a little suspicious.
I don't know really what to make of that.
I don't either.
I feel like I kind of want to like trust it in a weird way because it sounds like, I don't know. I get the sense that I get about Scott is that he sort of was like genuinely in love with this person.
How?
I don't know.
The
Phil Donahue continues and says, I've met her. She's very pleasant, pretty quiet. You wouldn't have been able to intuit anything about her that betrayed her status or any kind of deviousness.
I would have been able to.
And he says, and he ends it with, but I bet they still talk. I think he's very sad about it, to be honest.
Scott, if you are listening to this show,
my man,
I need you to use the Bezos method. I need you to text her right now. Hello there, alive girl.
Or is she alive, girl?
Exactly.
We need answers, Scott.
Yeah, God, poor guy. Imagine finding out that your old ass ugly girlfriend was in fact was one of the most prolific female child molesters in human history.
Well, I think that my sense from speaking with Phil Donahue is that he 1000% believes she's innocent.
That Borgerson still believes she's innocent? Wow. Okay.
So I think it's a case of the heart wants what the heart wants.
Yeah. Another phrase that I came up with.
And, to be honest, I can sympathize.
Yeah, I mean, I would be pretty bummed if I found out, like, my fantastically aged and weathered old woman that I dated, who I kept in my seaside manse, was Ghislane Maxwell.
Whomst among us has not fallen in love with a bad person for ourselves?
Golly, I mean, the list is thousands long for me. In fact, I would say hundreds of thousands long.
So, don't cast stones.
Yeah, true. In glass seaside mansions.
So I should give a special shout out to listener Phil Donahue for that. We really appreciate it. And also, we know there's plenty more where that came from.
Yeah.
And that we've got a lot of listeners out there. So
any Borg heads out there?
Yeah.
Hit us up.
And across the expanse of the Epstein extended universe.
We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, slide into those DMs.
Taboo without end.
Turning on your home computer.
To make money. First step.
Turning on your home computer.
To make money. The first step.
Turning on your home computer.
To make money.
So another piece that came out in the news. Some new information, or is it, about the autopsy report?
Literally no new information here. There is. There is new information, but it's been so frustrating to me.
Okay, so let's pull back. Will you explain?
Yeah, I'm not being a hater right now, but I am being a hater of Baden.
Okay, but let's tell our listener what happened this week.
Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in his jail cell, of course, the Manhattan Correctional Center. And one of the things that really stuck out right after his murder was that his hyoid bone had been fractured or broken.
Yes.
And other bones in his neck.
3 other cartilage.
Yeah.
In his neck.
And that is more consistent with let's say, a legal diagnosis of homicide rather than suicide.
Yes.
And we've, anybody with a working brain obviously understands that Epstein was murdered in some way or another. This was one of those things that's like, okay, well, it's right out here in the open. And, of course, he was declared a suicide about, I believe, a week after his body was taken to the medical examiner. Could be less time than that. I can't really remember the exact time frame. But Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, who's totally innocent of all charges and just a really upstanding citizen. Please don't ask any further questions.
Yeah, he had a company with his brother.
In fact, he partially owned that building on East 66th Street where Epstein kept his child slaves that he purchased from Europe.
Ah, well.
But he just didn't. I mean, dude, here's the thing, Liz. I own lots of buildings. I don't know if someone's running a global pedophile ring out of them. What am I, fucking the super landlord?
Yeah, it's not like I want to say let's trust Mark Epstein here.
Yeah.
But I will say it's one of those instances where you kind of want to step back and say, well, I don't know, let's see how this pans out.
Exactly. So Mark Epstein hires one Michael Baden.
Michael Baden.
Michael Badane, who is a sort of like celebrity. What do you call him? A celebrity forensic pathologist. The only
forensic.
No, he's running forensic. Sorry, wow, ableist much? Dyslexic, possibly. So Baden has an illustrious career. He was the chief medical examiner for City of New York from 78 to 79. That's not very long, is it? 1 year? He got fired for telling rich people how to get away with murder. He was on the chairman of the House Select Committees on Assassination, which that's like the later congressional investigation of the JFK murder.
Oh, right.
In the forensic pathology panel there. And he investigates anybody. If it's a famous case and someone's hiring a pathologist, you're hiring this guy.
Oh.
He's
like Dr. Oz of autopsies.
Exactly. He checked out Michael Brown's body.
What did he say about Michael Brown?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But it appears that Baden does kind of just I don't know. He's a weird guy.
Do you think that he's hired to say what he's hired to say?
I think he's hired to. I mean, that's when you're. I'm sorry. When you're in a court case, you're hiring the expert. You're hiring.
Sure.
Says what you want them
You're
to
not
say.
like I'm just hiring an expert who
Neutral
who knows
body.
what he's going to say.
Exactly. Not saying, of course, that Michael Brown wasn't murdered. That's
That's
you don't
what
need
you're
a fucking
saying.
pathologist to say that.
No one is saying that.
It's Baden is a little bit of a crook. He had an HBO show too, called Ballers.
HBO, Hyoid Bone.
Yeah.
On Broken.
And now he is, of course, back in the limelight and giving interviews on Fox and Friends, which, of course, should be noted as like the only TV show that Trump watches on Fox anymore. He's an OAN guy now, which I keep repeating, but it needs to be said.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he's going on there giving like a 10-minute interview about how Jeffrey Epstein was possibly murdered, and he does raise some good points.
So here's just a little bit of just reading straight from the news. Mm-hmm. Dr. Michael Baden, one of the world's leading forensic pathologists, viewed Jeffrey Epstein's body and was present at the autopsy, held August 11th, the day after Epstein was found dead at the notorious Metropolitan Correctional Center in downtown Manhattan. In an interview with the Miami Herald, Baden described Epstein's jail cell, the ligature he allegedly used to hang himself.
Hold up. Ligature, for those who don't know, means it's the device he used to hang himself, which in Epstein's case was 2 orange bed sheets tied together.
They were orange?
They were orange.
That's disgusting.
Well, yeah.
Who would have orange?
Liz is like, orange is the new whack. That's what Liz be like, saying that.
Can you imagine having orange sheets?
I have orange sheets in my bed. I have purple and orange. I do Giants colors on my bed, orange and black.
No, it's because you love gritty.
I love Comrade Gritty. Yeah, sorry. Some of us do believe in anti-fascism. and I think gritty.
Okay. Let me get back to this. His own suspicions that federal authorities have not conducted a thorough probe into Epstein's I'm still laughing at that. Epstein's cause and manner of death. They rushed the body out of the jail, which they shouldn't do because that destroys the evidence, Baden told the Herald. The brother, I like how he refers to him as the brother.
Mark probably doesn't want his name in the news too much.
The brother, Mark, doesn't think it was suicide. He is concerned it might be murder. It's 80 days now, and if, in fact, it is a homicide, other people might be in jeopardy. So, I don't know. I mean, okay. So, can you explain what Baden's argument is?
So Baden's argument is that the hyoid bone and these other bones in Epstein's neck were broken, and that is more often found in homicides than in suicides.
And you do not find this compelling?
So I do and I don't. Like, I do believe, like, with every fiber of my being, of course, that Epstein was murdered. I'm super suspicious of the figure of Michael Baden, especially because of his weird JFK stuff. And I believe his, like, wife worked on Phil Spector's legal team, and he did, like, the medical stuff on that.
I mean, he does seem just kind of like a for-hire gun.
Yeah, absolutely. But I found this from a medical website. It says a retrospective study of 175 cases of suicidal hangings over a 5-year period found that fractures of the hyoid bone and associated cartilages, the injuries that the medical examiner found in Epstein's throat, were detected in 68% of cases, and that the proportion of fractures increased with the age of the deceased. A prospective study of 40 cases of suicidal hangings over a 3-year period found fractures of neck structures in 19 cases, 47.5%, more commonly in the study's older men. So it's not super uncommon, it turns out.
Okay, but here's my question. I'm going to throw some things at you.
And toss them at me, baby.
In those studies, how many of those subjects
murdered?
did not use bed sheets?
That's the thing that I think we should, like, these are... we've talked about this before on the show, but I have both been in jail and I have friends that have been in jails that are very similar to the wing of the MCC that Epstein was in, which is like pretty high security. They do not like let you kill yourself there. Like, you don't have shoelaces. You don't like. It's not an easy place to kill yourself with. And these sheets are paper fucking thin.
Yeah, and orange.
So the force that Jeffrey would have had to use to kill himself, because remember, they're saying he tied the sheet to the top bunk of the bunk bed.
Yeah, and then
he aggressively knelt forward.
Yeah.
And that to do that with such force that you break a bone in your neck seems to me ridiculous. I mean, it's most people when they like when you hang yourself, as opposed to when you are hanged from like the gallows or something. When you're hanged from the gallows, your neck is supposed to snap, and that is what kills you. Like, it breaks your neck. But when you hang yourself at home, like when, you know...
It's asphyxiation, isn't
it? Yeah, that's exactly. It's trying to say the A word, asphyxiation. Which, you know, of course, many of our listeners will be familiar with autoerotic asphyxiation and accidents related with that. So, like, it's a different way of killing yourself.
I guess my only point is we don't know, or I don't know if it's listed in that study, the methods that the subjects that it cites used to hang themselves. Because if we're talking about using, you know, rope from the ceiling or, you know, a necktie on the doorknob or what have you. I mean, you're talking about very different methods, right? Yeah.
So here is the abstract for the study. Well, here's talking about the sample. The sample is divided in 4 groups according to the position of the ligature knot: interior, right, left, and posterior hanging. The authors analyzed all visible injuries of soft tissues and bones and cartilage of the neck. In 150 cases, we established that there was at least one injury of these structures. So, like, part of the neck, you know, the hyoid bone, etc. I am not able to access the actual study because I don't go to nerd school.
Is it on JSTOR?
It is on ResearchGate.
Oh, I can get that for you.
You can get the ResearchGate. So we're back. That study does not say exactly what methods they used to kill themselves. Only the position of the knot in the ligature. I hate saying this word ligature constantly. In the noose.
Or if it was, a real noose.
Anything you hang with yourself with is a noose.
But I do think that what you're bringing up is a good point. And, far be it from us to dismiss scientific evidence.
They should do a TV show about this and call it The Newsroom.
This is like the Baden stuff too gives me the creeps, like for the reasons I said before, and it could be they're trying to maybe throw some shade at those of us who have correctly assessed that Jeffrey Epstein did in fact die of a murder. Because Baden's thing obfuscates more than it really reveals. The one thing, though, that he does raise is really good is why was it so quickly called a suicide?
Yeah, so he brings up in one of his TV appearances, and I guess there's been a couple now. And this is actually a very interesting point, and I didn't know this. He says, so the official finding that it was suicide came from your office, the New York City Medical Examiner, that you're up against them now. This is the interviewer asking this.
So his old
Baden.
office.
Mm-hmm. Baden says, well, I have a difference of opinion. It looks like, now we don't have all the information. The problem is that once a death is classified as a suicide, it ends the investigation. The interviewer follows up asking, and the person who did the classification was the person who conducted the autopsy? To which Baden replied, quote, no. The person who conducted the autopsy in my presence did not think there was enough information at that time to call it a suicide. So she put down, quote, pending further study, meaning pending further investigations. All those investigations, getting information from the wardens, from the inmates, getting DNA from the ligature as to who was handling the ligature, stop. All those investigations stop if it's turned out to be a suicide. And one of the things that Mark, Jeffrey's brother, was trying to get is, why did the medical examiner's office change from pending investigation to suicide? The interviewer asks, who made that determination? The chief medical examiner, not the person who conducted the autopsy.
So here's some things that I would do if I was a medical examiner. I would be scraping under his fingernails to see if he fought back and there's someone else's skin on them. I would be immediately interviewing the guards very closely. I would be checking to see if there was any CCTV footage that would show me, like, maybe, okay, the camera's right next to his cell. I mean, we've heard that both were broken, which is just, I hate how that happens. It's their crumbling infrastructure, folks. But maybe there's other cameras that show to the hallways, to those hallways, if you know what I mean. Like
DNA evidence on these orange sheets.
Exactly.
Etc.
It's like, I know people, poo-poo DNA evidence, but if there was the DNA evidence of somebody that we couldn't, like, obviously if there's a DNA of, like, the guy who does the sheets or whatever, who does the laundry at the prison, well, we can kind of guess where that's coming from. But if there's DNA from somebody who, we might not be able to place right away, that would raise some questions. It's if there is a chance that this could not be a suicide, but in fact be a homicide, they should not have immediately ruled it a suicide because, as you said, the investigation stops there.
Yeah, and I think kind of the interesting point, like you said, is that not that these things are intentional, but I think that kind of because of the nature of this case and kind of the like mythos surrounding it, of which we are want to indulge in, that the kind of like splashy blockbuster things like the hyoid bone or these sort of like sensational news items really take up a lot in the popular imagination, which is not surprising at all. And, I am just as guilty of. But that once you kind of like dig in, at least this has been my experience, so I wonder what you think. But once you really dig into this stuff, what you see is a lot of inconsistencies and issues in a lot of the bureaucratic details.
Yeah.
And that can be really revealing in the ways in which these like papers keep getting kind of shuffled around and shuffled under desks and trying to hide and cover other things. And so you see decisions like this, or how we mentioned, you know, the way in which his plea deal was handled, the way in which Alex Acosta handled the FBI investigation in Florida, that these little kind of like, it's like almost like memorandum and details from these bureaucratic wings can be quite telling.
And the sort of the slowness and the sort of like inertia that this bureaucratic process has too is really revealing, because it's almost like someone's like, you know what, just hold this up in the details. Like,
Right.
yeah, no cameras.
Sand in the gears.
Exactly. Like, and it's one of the point where like, oh, well, maybe we'll find out one more thing in like 5 years from now. But like, I mean, think about like, where's William Barr's investigation? Didn't he
Right.
announce that he would open one? Heard not word one about that since he announced it. And it's like, they're trying to sort of like dazzle us with bullshit, like throw too much shit at us.
Yeah.
And
Clear-eyed.
Exactly. And it can be a little overwhelming, but it shows you, I think that there is something going on, because there are too many, like, what do you call it when there are this many coincidences? When all the guards are asleep, when all the cameras are out, when the cellmate gets moved out of the cell. Like, what do you call that? Because that goes beyond, if we were religious and we were talking about a religious phenomenon, we would call this a miracle.
I'd call it kismet.
Kismet. Okay. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like the subconscious of the world, right? Like, it's like this horrible, like this sub layer of
The
reality.
id revealing itself.
Exactly. And it's like this creeping sort of like either evil or this like penetration of reality.
Some might say demonic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it shouldn't be shrugged off, because obviously, you know, you cannot just blame all bureaucratic bullshit on, you know, whatever demon plague from Hillary Clinton's pussy. But you can, I don't know why I said that, but you can wonder, like, how is there so many coincidences that are all directly related to each other, forming this like really like terrifying like origami landscape,
Right.
And like it doesn't make sense unless you can really like get that there's something going on here. I mean, because that's all we can really say, is that there is something going on here.
Yeah.
Hillary, I have to ask you a question that has been plaguing me for a while. How did you kill Jeffrey Epstein? Because you're not in power, but you have all the power. I really need to understand how you do what you do. Because you seem to be behind everything nefarious, and yet you do not use it to become president. What is the game plan?
Well, Trevor.
But honestly, though, what does it feel like being the boogeyman of the right?
Well, it's a constant surprise to me. Because the things they say, and now, of course, it's on steroids with being online, are so ridiculous beyond any imagination that I could have. And yet they are so persistent in putting forth these crazy ideas and theories. Honestly, I don't know what I ever did to get them so upset.
It's this fucking thought. I cannot believe this shit.
So I got really heated
When
I saw this.
If you think about it for more than just like the first surface level thought of like repulsion, it is like so much more depraved than anything almost I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it is. So it's like deeply offensive on a couple different levels.
I mean, first let's take a look at what she is laughing about.
Well, actually, even before we talk about fucking Crooked Hillary, I want to talk about this asshat Trevor Noah
This little bitch.
and this fucking show that's allegedly called The Daily Show. So the way that these like dumbass things work is that, you know, Hillary Clinton and Chelsea, you know, her fucking kid, Chelsea Clinton, you know, they're told prior to all of that. They're not going to answer any questions.
This has been rehearsed.
This has been rehearsed. This is not a surprise. So this is a bit coming from the ingenuity of Trevor Noah's writer's room. And I do have a question. Is this coming from their writing room or is this coming from Hillary's people?
It could be. I could be a combination of both.
Yeah, my suspicion is it's probably Trevor's people that were like, we've got this idea, we want to float it on you. We think it'd be really funny.
I mean, they're all Hillary people in one way or another.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, God knows what the salaries are at a fucking late night writing room.
I mean, even if they're bad, I mean, they're all the kind of people who are like about Bernie and stuff like that.
Anyway. You know, first of all, the question, how did you kill Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah.
That's what he says, right?
I believe so.
And then he moves on to, because it seems like you're always in power, but you're never in power?
Yeah, so he asked her, like, how did you kill Jeffrey Epstein? And she laughs, and the audience, you know, is
everyone
amazed
laughs. Ha, ha, ha. It's so crazy.
Take, you know,
everyone is so crazy.
Oh, the South African. I don't know if it's about that, but it's you know, asking her this question. But then he just answers it by being like, well, of course, that's a joke. You know, it's just crazy. These people prescribe basically this power to you that you so clearly don't have. That, like, anything, you know, related to the Clintons is just this mad conspiracy because obviously you're just a woman trying to make her way in the world. And
yeah, gutsy woman.
You're just another gutsy woman. By the way, the women in that book, Eva Braun.
No.
Margaret Thatcher.
Marine Le Pen, which was a kind of a late ad.
I did think that was a little strange, but, you know, she defied her father. Took the party from him. And it's like... They're mocking the idea of the fact that Hillary Clinton has some power in the world, that she's just like some simple woman who's the same as you or me.
She's some sitting at home freaking mom, grandma, and not the former Secretary of State, not the former,
First Lady,
the presumptive first female president, by the way. Which I love the idea that it's like, you know, you're always on the side of wrong. How did you not use that nefarious power to get to be president?
Elected.
And it's like, well, I guess because the good light of Professor Dr. Trump stopped him.
Yeah.
Stopped her, bitch.
It's crazy. It's like
the framing is insane.
It's absurd. And like the other thing is or one of the many other things is that they are laughing on TV. Like Hillary Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein to you or me, to anybody listening to this, is somebody we've never met. We've never been in the same room with. We've never known probably anybody who's ever met. But Hillary Clinton has met Jeffrey Epstein. Hillary Clinton's husband flew around Africa with Jeffrey Epstein. Hillary Clinton, like, her family is intimately connected
Ghislane
to
Maxwell was seated.
Aisle seat.
Yeah, front row seat. At Chelsea's wedding.
Well, not front. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It was basically.
She was 3 rows back.
Whatever.
But like, she's got. You know, you're fucking watching Chelsea Clinton's wedding over and over on YouTube, like I am. She's there, motherfucker. She's peeking out on the aisle.
So the absolute gall of this fucking bitch.
This demonic crawfish
to laugh on national television that a man who ran in circles with some of the wealthiest people, which, by the way, the same circles with Hillary Clinton and her husband.
Exactly. I mean, that is literally like that is not a Venn diagram. That is just a circle.
To laugh at the idea that this man who ran in all these elite circles across the globe, who ran a fucking sex trafficking ring.
Yep.
Along with a guest of honor at her daughter's wedding, to laugh at everyone on national television that would suggest that perhaps there is a massive cover-up happening in order to keep those who might be, our quote-unquote problematic faves from being implicated.
Yeah, I mean,
like
it's
laughing in our fucking faces.
literally laughing in our fucking faces. In New York, in some fucking television studio with some other motherfucker who all he does, I mean, Trevor Noah, of course, should be in a prison made for him. He should be on an island by himself. But it's her and her daughter on here. Like, Chelsea, how could you laugh about this? This is one of your friend's best friends. It is not like, this isn't like us talking about Epstein and making jokes. These are people who were fucking friends with Epstein. Like, and if they're laughing about it, imagine what they're fucking laughing about when they're talking about you.
Seriously. And, this gets into another thing, which is that, we always say on this podcast that Epstein is a lens through which to kind of understand these sort of larger depredations.
Yeah.
That we, and the kind of, structures and people that govern and shape the misery of our everyday life.
He's a narrative.
Yeah, it's a useful way to see how these kind of different, powers, whether it's in finance or technology or defense or intelligence or sex trafficking or, fucking what have you, international, which we'll get to with fucking Mrs. Hillary Clinton, how all of these kind of disparate entities come together to really to shape our everyday lives.
Exactly. Like these people, like the people that Epstein was connected with, again, they are not like random people who are living in apartments in New York City who don't, have any effect on your life. These people shape every second of every day of your entire life. We're talking earlier about Ghislane rubbing shoulders with Jeff Bezos. Of course, Epstein himself was friends with Jeff Bezos. They went to a dinner together in 2011. Like these people are their friends. They're not friends with you. They're friends with each other.
Yeah, and
all their businesses and all their political schemings, all those things, those are connected to each other, and like those shape every second of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like QAnon people here where we're talking about, these are the people who control your life. Mm-hmm. But it's true that, when we have an episode about healthcare, that's connected.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton laughing on television about justice not being served is an example of the exact kind of impunity we're fucking talking about.
Exactly.
I watched that and I fucking lost it. First of all, the lack of care for actual victims is disgusting.
Yeah, like your fucking husband who is accused of rape by multiple people and who I don't know what you want to call what he did with Monica Lewinsky, but it certainly wasn't 100% consensual if you're the fucking president. Is like... I'm sorry, he was on the plane. I can't get over that. He was on the plane with fucking Kevin Spacey and Jeffrey Epstein flying around Africa. The fuck do you think they were doing? We don't really elaborate on it because we don't know exactly. But one can guess what they were doing without the prying eyes of the American press.
I just think it's really telling to kind of watch the way that joke was structured in order to kind of make a point about like fake news and Hillary's haters or whatever.
Well, it's just a vast right-wing conspiracy.
Exactly. And it's really, I have to say that it's really fucking disgusting and not indicative at all of any kind of quote unquote gutsy woman to use Jeffrey Epstein as a way to buttress their own public reputation while not even fucking mentioning the wake of underage bodies that this man left, or, the trail of underage bodies that this man left in his wake for 20 years.
Yeah, like you knew this. I'm sorry, if one of my friends was the most high-profile sex trafficker in the entire world, I think I would have guessed. And like it's like these gutsy, but I'm sure it's like in their book, I'm sure it's like Rosa Parks, Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, etc. Like I think women like Johanna Schoberg and Virginia Giuffre have a lot more. Like they should be Like, those women should be on national television, not fucking Chelsea and Hillary Clinton.
Right. Yeah, Chelsea Clinton, who, by the way, has done nothing.
Yeah, besides just be a perfect zero.
You know, the other thing that it really made me feel sick was because I was immediately reminded of the last time Hillary was on national television cackling about a man's death.
Yeah, they talk about in the interview, like, oh, you had this crazy right-wing conspiracy of all these bodies, in your past. She killed Muammar Gaddafi, the head of state of Libya.
And then she laughed on it on national television.
Like, that's not a conspiracy theory here. I didn't learn this on 8chan. Like,
no, I implore everyone to pull up the CBS News clip and watch her say, we came, we saw, he died, and then hear that familiar cackle.
Muammar Gaddafi was sodomized by, like, a piece of metal to death.
Yeah.
Like, now that country is, like, war-torn, slaves.
Yeah,
just a total failed
human
state.
and sexual and organ slave hub.
Yeah.
It is a complete and total disaster. And it's never mentioned, by the way. Libya is never mentioned.
This fucking crone just gets to go on TV and laugh about the suicide, quote unquote, of her old friend, her actual good friend's best friend, if that makes any sense, or her husband's like old travel buddy, is one of the most grotesque things I've ever seen in my life. Everybody who works for The Daily Show, who was involved in that, or hell, who even knows the people involved in that, I hope you do some fucking fentanyl.
Well, I mean, I hope you do some soul searching.
Yeah.
Because it's really
on fentanyl.
fucking disgusting. Like, it makes my skin crawl. And I think, I really thought back to our conversation with Dasha when she went down to the courthouse and listened to victim statements and these really gutsy young women coming forward to tell the story of their abuse.
Yeah, and their abuse at the hands of a man who would threaten them, who said he could do things to them that we can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, most of what was done to them has been redacted. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So, a big old fuck you to Crooked Hillary.
Suck my dick.
No.
Both of you. Same time.
I'm so fucking happy you are not president.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Fucking rotten hell, you dumb fucking bitch.
We came, we saw, and died. We came, we saw, and died.
Sorry, guys, I got heated.
It's okay.
Crooked Hillary really gets me going.
She sets you off.
She's my trigger.
She gives me indigestion.
I just really I had a little bit of a rough morning on social media with some pushback from some, I would call them blue check concern trolls about the use of Epstein. And between that and Hillary Clinton, it just really, I really question people's motivation in not wanting to pay attention to this case, because where my mind goes is, oh, these are victims that don't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just have to say to the person on Twitter that I shall not name and their supporters, and also to fucking Crooked Hillary, that, these young girls have been being told since they were 13 by the most powerful people in the world that they do not matter. So, don't fucking join those people. They do matter.
Yeah. Plus, we got your names on a list.
Yeah. I I'm sorry to just like be so down. I just don't. The shit is fucked up.
Yeah.
The shit is really fucked up, and people should be angry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Epstein has gone out of the news. Like it's not like something you're imagining. Like it's not in the news anymore. It's not really being reported on anymore. I mean, there's this Baden thing that came up for a couple of days, but it's been dismissed. It's already been replaced by other stuff. Certainly by the time you're listening to this, which should be 3 weeks later.
Yeah, and I whatever. I don't know.
Well, fuck you. Go to hell.
Yeah. Let's think of something sweet and funny. I do really like our listeners. I will say that, and I appreciate the support from them. And I know they all feel me on this.
Defend Liz.
No, it's not me. I just mean that they understand because they keep listening and are very supportive of this podcast and what we're trying to do. And I absolutely appreciate that.
Epstein ain't going away.
It ain't going away. Also, I fucking hope Hillary runs for president again so that I can not vote for her again.
Yeah, I know.
And I will do my best to get anyone I meet on the street to not fucking vote for you.
Yeah, check this out. Neither me nor Liz voted for fucking Hillary Clinton in 2016. Suck
our
fucking dicks.
Is clean.
Yep.
Wait, maybe we shouldn't end on another angry Hillary rant.
Well, say something nice. Say something sweet.
It's November.
Yeah. It is No Podcast November. So thank you so much for subscribing. We will see you.
Actually, here's something nice.
What?
We've got a live show coming up.
Oh, we do. Yes.
It is on November 21st.
And this is not...
Which is a Thursday, the night for the ladies.
Oh, exactly. Meaning ladies only have to pay $5 to get in. Men also have to pay that amount. It's called equality, baby. So this is not a live podcast. This is a multimedia terror show. We will be coming at you from all angles.
Brace came up with that. I'm not totally sure what it means, but it will definitely be...
The sights, the smells, the sounds.
an experience of a lifetime.
So join us November 21st at the Makeout Room in San Francisco at 7 p.m. for our live show, Who Killed Jeffrey Epstein?
I would suggest getting there at like 6:30.
Probably before that.
Yeah. Have a drink. Get a seat.
Free cheese pizza.
Meet up with some fellow Ep heads and get weird with us.
Okay. Well, that's you got to send us out here, baby.
All right. Well, I'm Liz.
I'm Brace. We're joined by producer Young Chomsky.
Thanks for sticking with our angry rants.
This is dark TrueAnon.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
That's what you want.